there are 5 places of the movie Coco that you can see in real life. When I was watching the movie Coco, I was surprised to see several real-life places that I have been to. I can almost imagine the animators watching these places and thinking we have to have this in the movie. So here it goes. 5 places from the movie Coco you can see in real life. Number 1. The Postal Palace of Mexico City. When Miguel's dead relatives take him to these offices, I immediately recognize the style of the Postal Palace of Mexico City. Now, you're probably wondering, what is this Postal Palace? And why did they use it for inspiration? Now, Mexico City is known as the City of Palaces, because there are many palaces there. They were built by royalty and rich people a long time ago. But as time went on, most of them became public buildings. And not just museums, but government offices. And this same trend happened all across Mexico, to the point that to this day, palace is almost a synonym with government building. This trend fitted perfectly with ambitions of the then president and dictator Porfirio Diaz, who loved all things European, especially French, and made several projects to make Mexico City a beautiful capital. And one of those projects was, you guessed it, the Postal Palace, which would serve as the offices of the Mexican Postal Service. And as you can see, it's freaking beautiful. It looks like a place where European royalty would have parties, but instead, to this day, it is a place for people to send their mail. And the coolest thing is, you can actually go there and take pictures there and which your office look half as good. Which is probably why they choose it as inspiration.
The movie Beetlejuice also shows offices in the afterlife, but these ones are clearly inspired in bland, white, cubicle-like offices. And as a result, they have a feeling of chaos and oppression. While in Coco, they needed offices that give a feeling of order, beauty, and freedom. Because the world of the dead is supposed to be this vibrant place full of life.
And that's exactly the feeling you get when you are in the Postal Palace. Number 2. Ernesto's Mansion. Ernesto's Mansion is super interesting because, for what I can tell, it combines elements of at least 3 different buildings. The Chapultepec Castle, the beautiful Arts Palace, and the Grand Hotel of Mexico City. The Chapultepec Castle was built for the Viceroy of New Spain, which was Mexico under colonial rule, and today it is a museum. The beautiful Arts Palace was another project of Porfirio Diaz to embellish Mexico City, and one he would never see finished. Because before that happened, the revolution happened. Which, quick side note, happened because Porfirio Diaz had been 30 years in power, and people suspected him of faking the results of the 1910 elections. Anyway, the project took longer than expected because of reasons. And every person who took over the project added a little of their own style, which created its unique look, which is so freaking gorgeous. I mean, I just want to look at it. And it's even more beautiful in person. And you can see both of these buildings as inspiration for the mansion. I mean, it looks like a white castle on a hill, but it also has these big arches and windows. Now, where did the inspiration for these towers and this dome came from? Well, those are very reminiscent of many colonial-style churches you can see all across Mexico, suggesting that Ernesto not just expects people to admire him, but to worship him. Which, I mean, Miguel kinda does. At least at first. The inside of the mansion, in the other hand, has the style of the Grand Hotel of Mexico City. I mean, look at that glass ceiling. But it also has a style that is not particular to one place, but to the city at large, and that is Art Deco. Art Deco was popular in the 1930s, when Ernesto was famous. And you can see it in the movie in things like the street lamps and the trolleys that take people up to the mansion. And you can see it in real life all around Mexico City, since after the revolution it experienced considerable growth, and many new buildings were made. Number 3. The streets. The world of the dead is supposed to represent not just Mexico, but its history, with the bottom being the beginning and at the top being the present. Something I love was how the flower bridges began in pyramids, and how you can see some Aztec or Mayan carvings in these walls, suggesting that they are much older than everything around them. You can also see Mayan or Aztec architecture when Hector takes Miguel to see the Forgotten Ones. And I love it because this is saying that the foundation of Mexican culture are these other traditional cultures, and that everything else rests upon them. Like the very tradition of the Day of the Dead. However, most of the movie happens around the part of the world of the dead that represents the 1800s. The cobblestones, the archers over the sidewalks, the plazas, the fountains, you can see all of that throughout Mexico. In fact, you can see places that look straight out of the movie in Guanajuato, Pátzcuaro, Querétaro, Puebla, and of course, Oaxaca, along with hundreds of other towns and cities. Now, not everywhere looks like that. We didn't stop building things in the 1800s. They look like that in the historical centers, where you can also find the government palaces we mentioned earlier. Number 4. The cenote. The pit where Ernesto throws Miguel is not any pit. But to understand what it is, we have to go to the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs. For real. The meteorite who killed the dinosaurs crashed in what is now the peninsula of Yucatan, in Mexico. Which means that millions of people live today in a crater. And that the entire Mayan civilization developed in a crater. And it could develop in a crater where there are no rivers nor lakes because the impact created a system of tunnels that are full of fresh water. And the openings to this tunnel system are called cenotes, and Mayans believe them to be the entrance to the underworld. And the coolest thing is, you can actually go there. You can jump straight from the jungle into the cenote and swim there. There are ones that are so deep that you can jump there with a parachute, or without a parachute, and then you would really be in the underworld. Not recommended though. Number 5. Santa Cecilia. Now, the town of Santa Cecilia doesn't exist, but I am 84.79% sure it is based on the town of Pátzcuaro in Michoacán. The problem is that all the evidence I could give you for that, like how the houses or the streets look, the plaza or the graveyard, one of which has a shrine to Lázaro Cárdenas, the president who rebuilt Mexico after the revolution, and that looks very similar to the shrine of Ernesto in the movie, you can see all of that in hundreds of towns all around the south of Mexico, which is the genius of this movie. Every Mexican will feel like they know this place. Every person who lives in one of these towns will feel like the town in the movie is their town. That's how well it represents them. Now, this reminds me a little of what happened with the movie Kung Fu Panda. Bear with me. When that movie came out, Chinese people wondered, why didn't we make this movie? What did it take foreigners to make a movie that captures so much of our culture? And probably many Mexicans will feel the same way. And I respect that sentiment, but that's not what I feel. Through history, my country has shown that it has the power to make anyone fall in love with it. From Austrian royalty to Russian revolutionaries, to movie directors, to people like you and me. Everyone is welcome. We want everyone to love our country as much as we do. And we will welcome any sign of this love, big or small. Viva México!